The 10 worst towns in Scotland. Those living in Scotland may find it easier to identify with the places we'll be discussing here as the worst towns in Scotland. For others living in the UK, however, some help might be needed to identify and associate with the condition of those towns. Thus, we shall try to be as fair as possible in describing these worst towns to live in Scotland. If the patriotic fervor is successfully prevented from blurring anyone's vision, the residents in those towns will readily agree with anyone listing their homes are among the worst places in the UK because they know that as eyewitnesses. You're encouraged to be objective about these towns described in this video. 10. Elgin. The town of Elgin in the heart of Moray is going to be our starting point. It is a town and formerly a Royal Burgh there. As the administrative and commercial centre for the county, Elgin is one of the 10 worst towns in Scotland. Elgin is on this list because of what those that had been there observed. One of them decried the unimaginable bleakness that absorbs the place, regarded as one of the depressing towns in Scotland. Its cathedral is in ruins. There are no quality and decent bars and restaurants in the town. A reviewer advised that you can only get a semblance of that at Arbalaw, where you can at least drink something bearing some semblance to a decent whisky. 9. East Kilbride. The next of the 10 worst towns to live in Scotland is East Kilbride, the largest town in South Lanarkshire. The town lies on a raised plateau in an area to the south of the Cathkin Braes, which is about 8 miles southeast of Glasgow. It is also close to the boundary with East Renfrewshire. We have to admit that it's not everyone in East Kilbride that'll agree that their town is one of the worst towns to live in. Either due to complacency or modesty, they seem to have everything they need and their chances of living in the town are close to nil. However, the aggression and intolerance of criticism are the banes of this town. If you can consider that an adventure, you'll be content with seeing East Kilbride where drunken thugs after 9 p.m. bumble through a web of roads as they try to locate their home. 8. Falkirk. Falkirk, a large town in the central lowlands of the country, is also one of the worst towns to live in Scotland. The town that was historically within the county of Stirlingshire lies in the Forth Valley. It's about 23 miles northwest of Edinburgh and 20 miles northeast of Glasgow. In Scotland, Falkirk is considered the Ned capital. You should avoid any derogatory comment here. Only those living in Scotland will appreciate the fact that this 21st most populous settlement in Scotland lacks civility. Visitors say they're pissed off by the heap and tacky bling being brandished in the city. Their dressing is out of this world, and the parents seem to have conceded the control of the kids to themselves as they display their indecent idiosyncrasies. 7. Coatbridge. The next one of the worst towns in Scotland is Coatbridge, a town in North Lanarkshire which is about 8 miles east of Glasgow city centre. The town, set in the central lowlands with neighbouring Airdrie, is a part of the Greater Glasgow urban area. The earliest known settlers in the area came around the Stone Age era, while the actual founding of the town is traceable back to the 12th century. Here's a town where one of the local junkies could just accost you and utter or mutter some indecipherable words when they just want a smack. Every evening can be nightmarish in Coatbridge with their special version of English they speak as they swagger and grunt at each other. You're likely to feel the odd one out on social gatherings when you see everyone with a bottle of cider or something stronger firmly gripped in one hand and a cigarette in the other. 6. Paisley. The town we want to beam our searchlight on next is Paisley, a large town you would find in the west central lowlands of Scotland. This town, located north of the Glenifer Braes, shares borders with the city of Glasgow to the east. It is the administrative centre for the Renfrewshire Council area and doubles as the largest town in the historic county of Paisley. Regardless of its location, it is one of the 10 worst towns in Scotland. According to tourists, people are generally unfriendly in this town. If you do not understand the reason for their unfriendliness, you may consider them ill-mannered and easily confused. That is why it hits our list of the worst town in Scotland number 6. Some of those visitors complain that you may be mugged at any time, even by people you don't suspect, as they don't look you in the face. But before you could say Jack Robinson, your mobile phone is gone, even while still being used. 5. Buckhaven. Buckhaven, a town on the coast of Fife, should not have been anywhere near the worst towns to live in Scotland if it has continued as it was in the 19th century. The formerly delightful town located on the Firth of Forth between East Wemyss Parish and Methill was a bustling village where you could spend at least part of your vacation. But if you stay there long enough, you would find yourself in one of the most boring places to live in the UK. All the weaving work, creating large numbers of woven goods, and fishing making it an important fishing port have gone. About 198 fishing boats in the formerly second biggest fleet of fishing boats in Scotland have been grounded when the industry waned following the First World War. The harbour has now been silted up, the beaches are covered in black residual. Poverty is now the order of the day. 4. Motherwell. Motherwell, a large town and former North Lanarkshire burgh, is also one of the 10 worst towns in Scotland. The town in the southeast of Glasgow was historically in the parish of Balliol, and it is now the headquarters for North Lanarkshire Council. Motherwell was geographically separated from the Hamilton by the River Clyde to the west, while it was separated to the northeast from Carfin by South Calder Water. The town has a semblance of a ghost town. In fact, Margaret Thatcher shut down the Ravenscraig plant. No one would love to willingly live in this town, considered a dump and one of the worst shopping centres in Scotland. Motherwell is one of the worst places to live in Scotland. 3. Greenock. Greenock, a town which is the administrative centre in the area council of Inverclyde, which is also a former burgh within the county of Renfrewshire, is the next of the 10 worst towns in Scotland. The town was situated in the west central lowlands of the region. Greenock was a part of a contiguous urban area. On both sides of the town are Gourock and Port Glasgow to the west and the east respectively. Greenock is here as one of the worst towns because it is the most deprived area in Scotland, according to official statistics. While the council leaders called that ranking a bitter pill to swallow, the high employment rate in this post-industrial town has weakened their capacity to dispute that. 2. Wishaw. What else can we say about the Scottish town of Wishaw, a large town in North Lanarkshire on the edge of the Clyde Valley? It is located 15 miles southeast of Glasgow city centre. It has been regarded as a crap town in the UK. A lot of reviewers have said a lot of disparaging things about this town that irrefutably categorises it as one of the worst towns in Scotland. Drug dealings and teenage pregnancies are blighting the life of youngsters in this town, with Tesco as its attraction. A reviewer remembers how a pond was too dirty and filled with debris such that all the fish had to be removed. 1. Cumbernauld. Cumbernauld, a large town in North Lanarkshire, is the 10th most populous locality in the region and the most populated town in North Lanarkshire. It is one of the worst towns to live in Scotland. As far as 2017, Cumbernauld was the Scottish town named Scotland's most dismal town twice. In 2001, a reviewer described it as a scary and the worst place to live in Scotland, and another called it the Kabul of the North, while another called it a Rabin Warren on stilts. Now, do you agree that the 10 places mentioned here are the worst towns in Scotland? If you're exercising your rights to dissent, please tell us in the comments section why you feel differently, and probably name other towns that should be on this list and the ones that should be off the list. Thank you for watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.